All right, here's what we got going on today. So I'm trying to get this drive shaft figured out, and I think I have all the parts here to make that happen. So I guess we'll go over the parts. This drive shaft is what came out of the donor vehicle that the transmission came from. The transmission is a ZF S640. It's a 6-speed manual transmission made by ZF. And this is the aluminum drive shaft that was with that transmission in the Corvette. So, and I talked about it in detail in I think the first video about the transmission, but I'll just briefly go over it here. So the yoke that was with this drive shaft was pretty much trashed and worn out. It was scored up pretty good here, and it fit pretty loose on the splines. So this is, because apparently, you know, because of Corvettes, nobody makes the correct yoke for that anymore, for that Corvette anymore. So this is a cut down late 90s 4-wheel drive GM. This one came out of a Tahoe specifically. And you can see it's a crooked cut because, I don't know, the chop saw just found a way to cut that crooked. But it was a long 4-wheel drive yoke that I cut down, made it a little bit shorter so it's the same length as the factory Corvette yoke. I had to clean the inside of the splines up a little bit, but it seems to fit pretty good. I'm going to run it and just try and see what happens with it. So that solved the problem of getting a yoke for the transmission. The next problem I had is these 4-wheel drive yokes use a 1330, I believe it's a 1330 U-joint cap, whereas the Corvette uses 1310. So you can see the difference here. Here's the Corvette cap. It's a loose fit, never going to work. So what I did is I had this combination U-joint. So this combination U-joint takes a 1350 to a 1310. So that U-joint, Neapco, it's a 3-3130 HD. So that U-joint is going to convert us from this yoke to the drive shaft. And then here at the other end, the other next problem we're going to have is the flange on the, what is that, R200 differential in the Datsun. So through the JTR, Jags That Run company, the same company that I bought the motor mounts from to put the Chevy in the Datsun, they also sell this guy here. So this is a conversion flange. It's going to accept a 1310 U-joint and then bolt up to the R200. So with all these parts, I should be able to make something work here. What I got to do, though, is guaranteed this drive shaft is the wrong length. I honestly suspect it's going to be too long, even as short as it is. So I got to get the yoke put on there, slide it into the transmission, and then I can kind of guess how much I need to cut out of it. Drive shaft's all cleaned up. The aluminum was really easy to clean on this thing. It's even cleaned up the date. This thing was made in 1993. Cleaned it up with gas. That worked real good. Probably not in a ventilated enough space for that, but oh well. So, funny enough, I think what is either the first or second most viewed video on the channel was actually popping a U-joint out of this guy. So years later, we're coming full circle and putting a U-joint back in it. One thing I did here, just because I remember having this problem before, is I put some more grease inside of each cap, so that way the grease will hopefully hold the needle bearings in there and keep them from falling out, because if I remember right, with this style, you have to basically get one cap kind of in, get the center of the U-joint in there, and then get the other cap on and put it together kind of at the same time, I think. So the grease will just help keep the needles from falling out or bouncing around, because then that's a hassle. All right, this is actually working out easier than I remember it the last time I did one of these. So I just pushed each cap in by hand, and I was able to get the center of the U-joint started into each cap. So I know that all the needles are in place, so that should all be good. Now I can go ahead and put it together, hopefully with no drama. So this 1330 style is, well, I guess we'll back up. So this factory yoke, the factory U-joint that it would have had with it was a U-joint that was pressed in at the factory and injected with the plastic resin. And you actually see the hole for it right there, that little guy. So there was a groove in the cap. They'd inject that plastic resin in there, and it would seal up and hold the cap in. So whenever you take these apart, you just torch the ever-living day out of it until all that plastic oozes out, and then you can knock the cap right out of it. Obviously, you can't put the plastic back in it, so they cut a groove into the cap down here. So what I did is I pressed the whole U-joint this way until I could get that snap ring in, and it was easy. I just kind of propped the snap ring up on there with it like this and just pushed down and it popped right in. I got the second clip in, so what I did after I got this first one in, I went ahead and set this guy up where the socket's supporting the yoke, and I drove the U-joint down until it was bound up by this clip. That gave me enough room to get this snap ring in. So now that that guy's in, the problem now is the U-joint is locked down because it's all compressed. So I'm going to put it upside down in here. And then I'm going to take something like this guy in here, going across the other two U-joint caps. So that way when I hammer down, nothing crazy, just tap down on the adjustable wrench here, it's going to push the U-joint and that cap that has the loose snap ring down until the snap ring binds up, and then we should be good. That should allow it enough play that it's not binding up. The snap rings will hold everything in, and we should be good from there. And I went ahead and got these clips in. A little pair of pliers like this. Not a fantastic tool, but the angle on the end of them definitely helps getting those clips in and out. And then I used a pair of channel locks and squeezed around on them just a little bit to make sure that they were pressed well into the groove. Did the same thing on these inner ones. One of these inner ones stretched a decent bit whenever I popped it on, and it didn't want to fit into the groove real tight. So once I had the basically the whole U-joint pushed this way and that clip was in a bind, I was able to take a punch and tap the loose end of the clip into the groove, and the interference fit between the clip and the yoke and the cap held the clip in place. So that seemed to work pretty decent. This combination U-joint's also interesting in that it has two different styles of retaining clips on it. So you can see this design here, like I mentioned earlier, has the clip on the inside. So this clip on the inside keeps the cap from flying off this way. And then this 1310 style has the clip on the outside to keep the cap from flying out. So two different styles of retaining clips on one U-joint. Last thing on this end, I put a little bit of blue Loctite on the threads of the grease cert and went ahead and got that installed. So now I'm going to put this back in the transmission and try and figure out how much needs to be cut off the drive shaft. Under the car again. So I have the drive shaft and the transmission obviously, and I bottomed it out and then pulled it back out probably about 3/8 of an inch, maybe closer to 1/2 inch. And then I came over here and I put a Sharpie mark right there. So that Sharpie mark is flush with the flange on the diff. So there you can see how much longer the drive shaft is, given that it's past the flange on the diff. So I then came over here and there's my Sharpie mark that I just made. So I kind of squared up this flange on the drive shaft, lined up the mating surface of this guy with the mark that I made earlier. So that pretty much sets the location of this flange as though it was bolted up to the diff and everything was right. And then what I did is I went ahead and marked the drive shaft. So I put 2 marks on the inside and out, well, on either side of where the edge of the cap would be. And then I just found the distance, I found the middle between the two, and I put a mark there, center of cap. And that's how I'm going to take it to the drive shaft shop, and I am confident that they can figure it out off of that. So that is where the center of the cap, well, assuming I did this right, that is where the center of this guy needs to get moved to in order for this drive shaft to fit in the car with about 3/8 of an inch of gap. And that gap is necessary because the end of the, the pinion, the ends of the thread on the pinion sit into this recessed area, and you can see there's also kind of a boss on the inside of this flange, so it's got to be able to come out and around the end of the pinion. So hopefully that 3/8 of an inch will be enough for that, and we'll just see what happens with this. I haven't tried using a C-clamp for this before, but it actually worked out pretty decent since I could hold the drive shaft sideways. I actually thought I was on the verge of screwing this U-joint up. I thought that one of the needle bearings had come loose and was stuck between the cap and the actual U-joint, which poses a problem because how do you drive everything back this way if you don't want to hit the cap that potentially has a needle bearing under it? So I supported the yoke with the socket, and then I put a 2x4 on top of the drive shaft and just gently tapped it out. Ended up that the needle bearings were fine. I just had too much grease in the cap, and I guess the grease sealed itself up and had nowhere to go. But that seems to be sorted now, so we can go ahead and finish putting this together. And finally, we have the drive shaft in the car. So the drive shaft shop, they might have just assumed that I was an idiot and probably forgot to factor in any kind of clearance in the slip yoke of the transmission. So the drive shaft is a little bit shorter than what I asked for, but I don't think it'll be an issue. So it all looks pretty good. I don't have any bolts in that yet. I gotta go find the bag that I stuck those in 3 years ago. So once I find those though, then I can go ahead and get the drive shaft bolted in. But I'm pretty pleased with that. And one thing I was worried about was that the drive shaft was actually gonna be too big to fit and that it was gonna hit the floor, because it's tight over here. I mean, I get my pinky finger in there between the drive shaft and the floor, but it does clear. So I think we're good on that front. So yeah, if this thing had a running motor in it, then it could technically move under its own power. So I guess maybe that'll be the next thing. That or exhaust, not sure yet. Anyways, thanks for watching.